It seems that Misaki has joined up with Kaido and Lucifaro in the, they're in that spot where it looks like they're defeated, but I don't think they are defeated. They'll be back probably in the next chapter, but for now they're gonna be in that meme done spot because their chapters are ended on cliffhangers where they're set up that again to look like they took like a considerable amount of a situation, but again I think there were a couple ones I actually bored. Clawing in the back of it. Anyway, we get back to it. So, for one, I will say that when it comes to like the chapter, I expected it to be very just focused on Urza and Masaki. Like any other way would have to kind of be like maybe like a half point, kind of like how Laxus and Kieran were, where like part of their fight was off screen and then we get like a chunk and then we would, peer away from it again. If we got something like that, maybe, but otherwise my guess is it was going to be similar to Lucy and Curio, where it was going to just pretty much be more and more focused on them. It was just going to be set onto their location and to their events. And, that's what it's looking like so far. Again, I would guess that the fight is not over. And if so, we could maybe peer off into another situation in the next chapter before it continues. Maybe like this could easily be like a similar moment as like when Laxus used his red lightning on Kieran, where he took more damage, or he took some damage, but like he wasn't done. There's obviously the fact that Kieran is stronger than Misaki, but I assume it'll be really unfortunate for Misaki if she doesn't take this, just because like she's a dragon slayer. This is like her first fight, and she like loses this quick in. Again, I don't think so. The panel at the end, it's so small, you don't see her face. They're still in her dimension. And on top of that, her clothes are relatively fine. And we know that damage equals clothing damage, especially. So I assume when she's defeated, like her clothes are going to be all ripped up. So she's probably going to be back on her feet in the next chapter. Hopefully then actually fighting Urza with some more effort. My guess is that after this level, she's got like one more kind of trump card before she gets her Dragon Force. But I mean, all she really has to do is put just more effort into her fight with Urza. She just has to not underestimate her as much. She seemed to be acknowledging more of her strength, but you can tell that she still wasn't looking at her opponent as somebody that would be like, or the adversary. It's more of like, she's just being like, okay, you're doing a little bit better than I expected kind of thing. So with that, I'm hoping that when we get to Misaki, and one, I obviously hope that she's still able to fight, but two, I'm hoping that she will actually give Urza the recognition that I think she should have. So, so the chapter begins, right where we pretty much were left off in the previous chapter. Urza got a cut onto Misaki. Misaki took some damage. And I thought the first part is like Urza, she summons a bunch of swords and ends up like launching at Misaki. And then we see a bunch of swords going to Urza. I thought what Misaki was doing was she was kind of like spatially hijacking the ability. So she was controlling the swords. But instead, she's just creating swords. She's just making them. And she says pretty much that in this dimension, she can just create things at will. Which is pretty impressive. I wonder, like, what extent she could go to. Like, is it just inanimate objects? Would she be able to make creatures? Is it just kind of restraints and, like, basic weapons? I mean, that's still useful. But, I mean, like, at the same time, how far can it really go? Like, it can be good, but they can only do so much. When we think about it, obviously the hacks is more in like the effects of the dimension and the fact that she's obviously going to be, again, I assume safe from the damage, because she looks like she just inflicts the damage afterwards too, like as one of the ways that it works. Because she, at one point, she's like attacking Urza, she breaks her armor, attacks her with some stuff, and she's like, oh, now your armor's broken, you can't really move, and then you're gonna lose now. Kind of thing. She's like, well, you're done. Gets ready to go attack her. Urza puts on another armor, and Misaki seems astonished by it. But we know, obviously, like how her armor works. But one thing that I think people forget is requip, from a combative standpoint, is not common. Like, requip itself is common, but being able, like, the people that have weaponized it in, again, a offensive style of magic aren't that common. So I think for Misaki not to know Urza has like all these different, like this, as many armors as she does, rather, and as many that she can go through in this fight. I think that makes sense of why she would expect it. But Urza pretty much just tells her, you know, her magic lets her re-equip armor instantly. And Misaki, this is where Misaki starts to actually acknowledge some of her strength. I don't think entirely. I think that like right now like in her mind, she's looking at it at least before Urza gets that big attack. Like for her, it's not the same thing as like Curio, like in terms of how powerful Curio is, but I feel like she would look at Urza and the way she's viewing it more of the same way that she would kind of look at Curio as like this lesser experience, somebody that she would acknowledge but still see as much further down the pole as she is, much further down the totem pole. And I think with Urza, at least from what we understand, just based off of, I think that again, that general claim Laxus and Guild Arts, that Urza is weaker, but she has ways of, again, her magic being more utility based and how it can kind of combine together. And with Misaki, who is underestimating her, I think that would put her in a really good spot for her to, it puts her in a really good spot to be able to overtake that gap if she's able to think of, enough strategy, get enough openings and work attacks into her opponent. When you look at like the whole layout, though, like for one, I think Misaki and Urza doesn't like this fight. I think should end on a draw. I think the best way is their fight continues and maybe it goes and pans off to another fight and we get back to it later, or something happens and Urza and Misaki are both KO'd. They have to recover and it gets to Mad Mole, Scoleon versus God, Jill, and Gray. Because I think that would make sense if there's some reason that Mad Mole and Scoleon kind of show up and fight God, Jill, and Gray and intervene with them there. Whereas like we need to keep the Misaki and Urza thing kind of going. I think not only because like I would like to see more of Misaki, but I like that all of the Dragon Eaters have been paired up with main cast members to have rivalries pretty much during this arc. And the only one that made sense really to get out of the way, like in full, was Curio and Lucy, just because of how much that's like has been set up since the start. And then when Natsu and Suzaku, I'd like to see them fight again, but I think them having like a somewhat serious fight, not entirely, but then kind of where we could move them into another battle where they can fight and it won't be a death match. It'll be more of just kind of like a serious skirmish between two people, between two friends, hopefully by the end of this. But at that point, Misaki decides she's going to start bringing out some of her more dangerous attacks. And it just looks like in her dimension, like this white. It just looks like this white kind of like aura and like energy is moving towards her and like smashing into her. And like she's saying like how she tore space, which would have been crazy, but she's instead saying like, no, the space itself is attacking her. So I wonder exactly how that entirely works. Like she says she can't see it. So is it literally just like, I assume that she pretty much is putting her magic in the space and it's just smacking into her? Because then wouldn't she be able to sense the magic? Or is it because of the way that it works that she's not able to sense or really do anything with it entirely? I was really hoping that panel where we see Misaki with the energy around her hand and that really that cool like kind of flower vine design. I really enjoyed that. She's like, I was really hoping that was going to be a reveal on what her Dragon Slayer attribute is, but she's pretty much just doing one of the I'm one of Diablo's Dark Dragon Slayer Knights, and she says that she's only used this power once before while sparring with Kieran. So here's the thing, in my mind, I assume that would mean she would have something above this. Obviously, she has Dragon Force, but I'd say like a general arsenal thing. Because if she uses this against Kieran, and Kieran is still the strongest, that would mean that obviously, Kieran stay the strongest from that match. So if she left that, I think, situation and that ability wasn't enough, it would make sense, I think, for her to, as a character, to want to go and develop something above that. She's gonna have something bigger. But it's not doing, it's hurting Urza, but it's not doing a ton. I'm guessing the danger is more in the fact that you can't see it or really do anything about it. She can pretty much just attack you from anywhere at any point in this dimension. It's like you essentially are in her attack, but she can just turn it on and off whenever she wants to. Pretty good ability. Like essentially like when you're stuck in here, unless you can defend yourself, like just straight out defend, like at all times. Like I don't know, because I mean, like even if you did like a full body like power defense thing kind of thing, it's still gonna hit you. You're still gonna get your ability whittled down. All you can really do is just buy some extra time. And at that point, Urza's armor's broken again, and Misaki goes for another move, creates a bunch of chains, and then like we have the part where she says like, time is up, and she's gonna go and attack. I was really sad this wasn't a new attack. She uses her blue stream after she says the 24 seconds is over, and now Urza's gonna get the 24 hours equivalent to damage. I was really sad this wasn't anything like a new attack or anything bigger, because like I really liked the art style that was used around the attack, because we don't have any other attacks in the series drawn like that, and I just thought that was pretty neat. She uses blue stream again, and Urza uses her adamantine shield and manages to block it. I feel like that makes sense. Her blue stream, it seems more in like the effect rather than like a outright damaging ability. It'd be like, because otherwise like Urza blocking this would just be really crazy for her shield. I mean, maybe it's just because it's her shield, her adamantine shield, but I feel like it's more just because like this is more of the, like she's applying the effect to you rather than like this is a damaging ability that's going to hit you with all the force. More like it's applying the rules of like how this dimension works to you as a character. But then Urza goes into her Armature Fairy Armor, which I was really happy to see. She does make a really good point with Misaki. It's like, if you want to restrain a wizard, you should use magic sealing stones. That's true, because like Misaki, like you can physically bind Urza, but as long as she has a way to use her magic, she can get out of there. So that was something that completely made sense for that scenario. And then she ends up doing this. This is what I really had hoped for her to start doing, is like when she gets to start enchanting her weapons in combat, that she would use heavenly body magic. I was hoping more for Grand Chariot into a sword, but I'm fine with this. She pretty much just, he does heavenly body magic directly into it. And then we see that this really cool part with Misaki, when Misaki is looking at part of her dimension where it's like eroding, and there's part of it that is like turning scarlet like Urza's hair. But when you look at that like part where she, like her magic is overtaking, like it's not the whole dimension. It's not like Urza just completely wiped out Misaki's ability with this, the flex of her power. It seems more like, if I had to guess, like maybe like somewhere between like 20%, maybe. Like it looks like it takes up a good chunk, but it doesn't even look like it takes up half. And I thought that was just really cool, because it hyped up Urza, her power is like literally overtaking this person's own dimension. I thought it was just a really cool visual effect, and like effect to go with the fight, that part is turning that scarlet red, similar to Urza's hair. And we have the whole part where Urza, is bringing up obviously Misaki cutting her hair, and she goes for this like fairy blade meteor. Someone brought up something that was really cool in the naming, in that meteor from the heavenly body spell is always said and written in English, whereas this one is written in the Japanese version, or at least like how it's written out in like its style. Is like meteor is in English, versus this one it's written in more of like the Japanese context. I wonder if that's the name, or if she like used meteor the spell, because like meteor the spell, it would make sense in some ways, because like meteor enhances your speed and your physical prowess. Like it's just one of those buffs, gives you flight and whatnot. That would actually be really useful to use here, just in general, because then it doesn't matter about she can move, she can just fly. But I figured it would be more Grand Chariot, because Grand Chariot's more just like a straight attack spell. Alta Iris would be really cool. I would love to see Alta Iris on her sword. Like that would, if Urza knew Alta Iris, though, we would have to have some form of we would have to have some form of plot moment around her character with it. Not like in like a some form of larger story way, but like we have to see Urza react to like the whole thing. Like she has to literally have a moment where she thinks of using the spell that was used to kill Simon, pretty much. Like that has to happen. But Misaki is hurt, and again, I feel like this is not a defeat panel, because it doesn't show her face. It's all shaded. Her clothes aren't that damaged. Her hair is not even really that damaged. Her dimension's up. Like it looks like she just took like a general attack, like something that you'd be able to shrug off, but still you obviously took damage from, knocked you back some. So Misaki, maybe this is where Misaki's gonna fight with like her full kind of gusto, and we'll see more of a rivalry between her and Urza. I would really enjoy that. Because like this one is like, it's really cool to see like how exactly they've been kind of like presented in Wave 4. rivals. Like everything for their rivalries has been really cool. I've liked that whole structure for the Dark Dragon Slayer Knights and even just Diablos in general in this whole arc. So when you look at it and we see one for Urza, and I wasn't too sure, like a lot of people like weren't too sure like where Urza was going to be sitting going into this arc, but I feel like with Urza, like when it came to like looking at Urza's picks, you see like Suzaku. I thought Suzaku made way more sense to go with Natsu just by how their personalities were. Misaki being the other logical choice ended up being so. I think we really need to have some more stuff to kind of set up the back and forth relationship between the two of them, because if this is it where it's going to end, that'll be the lamest one, because like Misaki's character will just kind of be cut short as is instead of getting more time to kind of get itself developed and structured out. So right now it's just kind of that question of like where this fight's going to go over the course of the next, I'm guessing, chapter or so. But I'm kind of hoping it gets interrupted or it gets stopped, like in some way, shape, or form. It just kind of gets split, and we see instead a new setup of, oh well, they're going to now be setting up this other like 2-on fight between Scoleon and Mad Bull. Instead, we have what we still got the Masaki and Curio fight, obviously, but for now, my big hype is in the Scoleon and Gray rematch, but I think Mad Bull and Gajo will be really cool. We do obviously, I think, need to get past this round, but I'm hoping a round. I would really like to see Masaki come back and have another fight with Urza, but like their fight start with both of them being fully ready for each other at the go. And on top of that, I think it'd be much better for another round with some character build on Misaki. Like, she doesn't need to be like some 10 out of 10 character, but I think if we can get some time to kind of build up and get more of the fight between them, I think that would be really cool. Because like we're at a point still in the labyrinth where we've gotten some battles. These have obviously been really cool battles, but we haven't seen a lot of like the labyrinth itself. And I think part of that is like we've gotten like the first kind of bits were moving at a different pace, but like the full focus, obviously we haven't seen a ton of what's been going on in the last couple chapters because it was, you know, a focused Lucy fight and now a focused Urza fight. So it's gonna be like a fun while. Like everything right now, I can't wait to see what the progress is gonna be near the end. Like when we really see the end of this arc, how's this gonna all lay out? Because I feel like the Selene stuff, like Selene is gonna play a part over 3 arcs, or like I guess 3 parts of the 100 Years Quest saga. Like the first part was an Ellen tier, obviously her opening. I think this one is gonna be more of kind of like getting a understanding of her character. Probably we're gonna find out a lot more about her backstory and a lot more of her intentions and whatnot during this arc, especially when we get closer to the heart, and maybe when we get some with Ignia and Selene when their matchup comes. But as of right now, I just can't wait to see like I can't wait to get to the next chapter because I want to see like Miss Masaki's gonna get up or if she's done. But I do want to know what's going on with some of these other matches and some of these other characters. Again, I have a lot of hype in Scoleon versus Gray round 2. I will be very disappointed if we don't get that, and I will be super bummed if we don't have some form of big fight for either of them, because it'd be weird to do nothing with Gray, Scoleon, Mad Bull, and Gajo, especially with Gray and Scoleon having a past already for a rematch setup. But it's like, what would be the point of Mad Bull and Gajo if there was no one for them to really battle? But at the same time, it's like, if you have at this point literally just 4 characters left who don't have personal 1v1 matchups, how? Because look at like Gray and Scoleon have history. Mad Bull and Gajo, very easy to have a setup there. It's very easy to have a setup between them, especially like when they're 2 characters who are extremely set on their durability of like being extremely durable types of Dragon Slayers. Right now, I would put all of my kind of guess towards where we're going to be sitting in the next, I would say the next chapter 2. Like we got to get through this fight, and that's the only other active fight unless we get Scoleon and Mad Bull showing up. But beyond that, I would say like we're gonna get to Ignia and Selene. The Ignia and Selene one is That's the one I know everyone's hyped for. Everyone wants to see how that fight's gonna go. If I'm trying to figure out like where Machine would kind of aim it. Is he gonna keep them in their human forms, or is he gonna put them in their dragon forms? Because the degree of the fights will differ immensely if we see them only as humans versus if we see them as dragons. If we see them as dragons, we will essentially have the biggest fight we've had in the series. The two equal characters at this point of that level of power fighting. That'll be our biggest battle. So, I mean, it'll be so weird to see Igni and Selene fight just because I want to see both of them fight and I want to see both of them win and succeed. But it's like, obviously, this is going to be a weird scenario. This is something that I think everybody's been wanting to see. Everybody wants to see the dragon gods clash. So, it's gonna be coming up. Like in Misaki and Urza, that's the only active fight that is really gonna, at least as of right now, established to be holding us up for the fight with Selene and Ignia. Once we get past that, there's nothing really left for us to be waiting on, other than what? Like if we get Laxus and Kieran, but I'm like, would anybody even complain about Laxus and Kieran rematch? I'm pretty sure that'll be in a bit, just because we know out of anyone, Selene's gonna know where Igni is. Like she's not gonna be wandering around in a maze being like, well, I guess I'll find him. She can just teleport. That's how that she knows already where he was heading and whatnot. So we'll see where that's gonna go. I think that Misaki will be fine, but at the same time, Urza, if Urza doesn't, like, this doesn't seem to be Urza's big full win here. My guess is Urza's gonna maybe pull out some more new spells into some swords, and maybe some new, maybe then we'll get the Grand Chariot sword. I don't know. Maybe with the Altair's sword. I wonder what it'd be like. Would she be able to do a Senma sword? How would that work? That would actually be amazing. Like if she did something like she struck a sword and then summoned a meteor and then pulled all the kinetic energy into her sword. But at the same time, she already did like a meteor thing. So I feel like just give her the Grand Chariot, give her Altair's, maybe give her something new, like maybe her own Celestial Body spell. Maybe she combines it with Blumenblatt and does something kind of really cool. Well, actually really cool if she used Blumenblatt to set up Grand Chariot. That'd be pretty fantastic too. But anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video. This is just the chapter read fast because obviously it was more of a action chapter or whatnot. It's not even an end. At least what I would view as like an end of the fight chapter. Anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, but feel like and subscribe button, check out my other videos. From that, appreciate your subscribe. Thank you all for listening. Bye.